Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Boss Moves and Public Relations. I'm Samantha McCoy, CEO of Mission Key Communications, where we equip entrepreneurs and leaders to increase their visibility.
Hi, greetings. My name is Brooke Waller, the CEO of Brooke Bold Media, where I help my clients increase their reach, results, and revenue.
And I am Stephanie Cottle, and I am the CEO of Black Girl Group, and we are a freelance staffing agency that connects African American women freelance creatives to companies seeking to outsource more diverse talent.
And Stephanie is also a PR expert as well. So that is why she is on the show today. You may have seen her on TV the past week or so because she's been killing it in the media game. So we are just going to we're going to open it up and just talk about some wins that we have to share because we have all been working very diligently and very hard. So just wanted to start off with some things to celebrate. So one thing that I am excited about is I have actually partnered with expert journalist Brittany Oliver to do a public relations training. So I'm going to be doing a training all about what public relations is and how people can get media coverage on their own, even without a publicist. So we're going to be doing that training on Saturday, September 26th. So if you have not gotten your ticket yet, we are keeping it super intimate so we can customize the training for everyone. So it will be only 10 slots. So you definitely want to sign up for that if you have not already. We have a few more slots available. So I'll definitely make sure I put the link below in our show notes in case you want to attend that. So that's something that I am excited about. Brooke, what wins do you have to share this week?
Yes, I am so excited. I launched my business back in July and it has just been booming. My client is Dr. Carr, known as the problem solver, and she's a psychologist. And she was able to get two media interviews, which I'm really excited and proud. One was on Fox Soul TV, and the other
Nice.
one was with Fox 5 Good Morning DC
All
this past week. So really happy about those two wins for my client.
Okay. So, I this month already, all of my clients have been placed in the media, which is super exciting for me because typically it's like hit or miss. Like one client may have a really good month and then another one doesn't. But this week or this month rather, all my clients have been placed, so I'm super excited about that. Last week, I was on NPR, just shedding a little bit about the impact the pandemic has had on freelancing. So that has been really great for my business. And then I guess by the time this airs, I will have been on V103, which is the number one R&B and hip hop station in Atlanta. I will be on there this upcoming week on Tuesday, actually during the midday drive, talking about all things PR and entertainment. So I'm really excited.
nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Well, definitely make sure you keep us posted on that so we can tune in as well.
I will.
Yes, excellent, excellent. So, what are we talking about today? We're just gonna talk about just some things in the news and topics that we have really been interested in. So, have you all seen the? Did you see the segment this week that Good Morning America did on natural hair? Did you all catch that?
I love that. Yes.
Yeah,
I saw it when I was getting my hair done.
that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah, actually it's really funny because I mean hair is definitely something it's always a thing for me. Like it's always a topic. It's something I have to think about all the time. Like even we're recording this today and I have two other recording um I can't even think of the word, two other recording opportunities that I'm doing this week. And so I'm just like, I could potentially have different hair or different looks on all of them. And so it's definitely been different. And now with my corporate job, I used to be able to hide behind my camera without having to show up on camera. But now that I'm in a new role, we are pretty much required to be on camera most of the time. And so now, I've been thinking a lot about, changing my looks up and what people are going to think, especially our non-melanated friends that may not have seen me in all these different looks. So I've had a little bit of, I don't know if I want to say anxiety, but I mean, I've definitely just been thinking a lot about it. And I just feel like every decision, like every place that I show up on video, I'm always just like, how's my hair gonna look? Am I gonna feel ready? Am I gonna be okay being on camera or not? Because some things you can't control all the time. So what has that been like for you ladies?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. Like right now my hair is in braids. I do have relaxer, and I've really been contemplating if I'm gonna go natural or if I'm gonna keep getting a relaxer. And I totally agree with you. It's something that I think about, especially now that we're still in this pandemic. I'm in a corporate role where I'm on camera, and just you always want to look your best while you're on camera. So it's definitely something I'm always thinking about, and scheduling my appointments and just
Yes, no, that is so real. And actually, just in case you all have not seen it, those of you who are watching, it was basically talking about how the pandemic has has caused a lot of Black women and women of color who have curls, natural curls, to embrace those curls and embrace those styles, because a lot of us were not able to get to our stylists. So those of us who do not do hair on our own, like me, have had to be very innovative and creative, and just find out some very new ways of styling and showing up on camera. And just the way that that's received, even in 2020, is very different depending on the culture of your organization, depending on who you're working with and what you're doing, what profession you have. There's just so many factors where still, even today, you can still get comments and questions and all types of different responses based on hair. So Steph, how about you? We know you are emancipated from your corporate life. So
Yes, I am. Yes.
So how does this factor for you? Is it even a factor, or how have you been feeling about your hair since the pandemic? It looks awesome, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It's interesting because I'm natural, but I don't wear my natural curls often. I do sometimes, but not all the time. I straighten my hair a lot. However, what I will say is that even though like I don't work for a traditional 9 to 5, I still find myself in that same predicament as you guys, where you're just like, okay, is this too much? Or, is this okay? What are they going to say? And I read this article because every time like I start feeling a certain type of way, I look it up to see if it's normal to feel that way. And I read this article, and it was talking about microaggressions even during the pandemic. And one thing it mentioned was that even as Black women, of course, it's like whenever we're coming on, we have to be mindful of our hair. We have to be mindful of what we're wearing. Like we can't do what some other people may do, whereas, dressed up top but nothing on the bottom, because for whatever reason, they might ask you to stand up and turn around, and we just can't do that. And so it was really interesting to see that. But one thing they also mentioned was that as Black women, we often have to worry about our hair. And it's not even that someone is saying like you shouldn't wear your hair that way, but if you get on a Zoom call, for instance, and like your hair is a little bit different, they'll say, oh, look at your hair. Well, what exactly does that even mean? Like, does it mean that you don't like it? Is that your way of telling me that it's not professional? What is it? So you're always having to think like, how will you be perceived once you come on camera? I don't think it's fair. But at the same time, I think that lots of us have also gotten to a point where we just don't care anymore, because it's like, I'm at home. If you're not okay with how my hair looks today, then I mean, that's on you. I'm at home. I'm in the comfort of my own space, so you can't really dictate it. But I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but since this pandemic has started, and especially as it seems to be going on longer and longer, lots of companies now are looking at implementing the same dress code they have in the office, also on Zoom as well. So what do you guys think about
Wow.
that?
I actually did not know that. And that's, I mean, that's just something that I have personally always been very cognizant of. I am very, well, I was going to say concerned, but I'm very intentional about the way that I show up on Zoom in my corporate meetings. And I have had directors tell me, oh, we don't really care how you look. But I'm just like, I do.
Right,
I
exactly.
care how I look because I really feel like I cannot afford to show up in a baseball cap and jeans and, you know, hair that I just washed and haven't blow dried it yet. Like I don't have I don't feel that I have the luxury of doing that, because I think, you know, for me to show up in my natural, completely natural state that's not, you know, put together in some way, to me, I feel like that would be perceived as unprofessional, as opposed to someone who has, you know, just straight hair. It's like, you know, they might be able to get out of the shower and maybe it's a little bit wet, but it's even that way, it's not perceived as unprofessional.
Yeah, that's true. I know
Totally.
even. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm always like blazer, dress, and hair some type of way, and makeup, because how you show up, I believe that reflects, and sometimes we don't have the same luxuries as some of our colleagues do, and we have to show up. They call it suited and booted. No matter. My company has sent out statements that you can come more relaxed, but I want to give off, a professionalism all the time. And I feel I have to do that. Can't show up in a t-shirt, or you know our real natural state.
Exactly.
That would be, yeah.
And
No,
y'all,
that's true.
and the
Oh, go
thing
ahead.
too is that the schools have definitely implemented it now. Like I know even with Caitlin's school, they've actually sent a list of things you cannot wear. One of them obviously being your pajamas. So like the kids have to come fully dressed. And I'm like, okay, I mean I get it, but it feels weird that like someone is telling your child how to dress even at home. But on the flip side of that, I feel like I've already taught Caitlin even at a young age, like to always be presentable, because when she's on her little Zoom call, like y'all, like she has on her Sunday dress, literally. Right?
Did
Sunday.
she pick it out? Like, did she tell you what she wants to wear?
Yes, and she's very intentional. And so, like sometimes, like her teacher, like, "Wow, Kayla, you're really dressed up." And she's like, "Thank you." But like any day that she knows that she has to be on camera, she's gonna have on a dress.
Ready to go.
But
That is
Okay.
awesome. That's
Bring
hilarious.
them up early.
Right? That is hilarious. But yeah, so a friend of mine, it's so funny. Yesterday we were talking, and a friend of mine sent me a screenshot of, it was her and one of her team members. She's an entrepreneur. So it was her and one of her team members, both African American women, and their client was a white male CEO, and then one of his colleagues. And so it was very interesting, the contrast. Like, the African American women were basically full makeup, hair done, dress, all of that ready to go. And the client was like t-shirt, t-shirt, and well, I don't know what they were wearing underneath, but it was very casual. And even the title in the Zoom call, they had their full name, the company they represented, but the client just had like it was interesting because the man only had his it might have only been his last name. I don't even know if his first name was up there or not. And then the woman had her first and last name. So it was just interesting that there were kind of degrees of formality depending on, who was on the call and who was showing up. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if you can read too much into that, but I think that it is interesting how, a lot of the stereotypes and even the stereotypes that we've internalized about, how we don't have the luxury to do that. Like, I think even the fact that we still think that says a lot, because it's just like, man, do we really still not feel that if we were to show up a certain way, that, we would be perceived a certain way. Because I also know some entrepreneurs that are very intentional about not showing up, you know, in an expected way. And so I've heard some people say, hey, I'm showing up in a t-shirt, I'm showing up in my cap, and I'm still going to kill it. And yes, I'm still making 7 figures, but I'm going to show them that I am going to look the way that I want to, and you're not going to dictate, you know, how I am. So I've heard a little bit of both on that.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. You know, and also I think when I look at other brands and other companies and publicists, it's really like, how do you represent your brand? You know, some people have like more relaxed brands.
Right.
Some people would say they're like more upscale or more dressier brands per se. And it's like, how does your brand come off of what and we're all brands, no matter if you have a company or if you don't have a company, you're a walking brand.
That's very true. And I guess that even goes to corporate culture as well, because I know, like, I mean, my company is very corporate. So we're not like, you know, this cool tech, you know, young, what, like that's not what our brand is at all. So because of that, you know, I don't think that I don't feel that I can be as relaxed because the people at the top are not. And so I just don't feel like I can be either. Whereas, you know, maybe if I worked at a Google or Microsoft or something like that, I might feel a little more like, okay, everybody is showing up casual. So maybe I'd feel a little bit different. Yeah. Awesome. So any other stories, any other things people have found interesting or things you've been following recently?
I have 2. The first one is really interesting to me. It is controversial. The Andrew Gillum case. That he had the story that came out, and basically he was telling his truth, his side of the story of what happened. Him and his wife having this covenant that he was bisexual, and for all these years only she has known. And it was really interesting to see that she's felt comfortable with only them knowing. And then it was also interesting to me is like, what's his purpose of coming out? You know, I understand from the crisis standpoint of you want to be the first one to tell your side of the story so the narrative doesn't shift and you can tell your truth. And the other side is, does he have motives to run for political office in the future? And is this somehow like helping his case for it? So I'm just curious, like from a PR standpoint, how would you handle Andrew Gillum coming out for that exclusive story if you were his publicist?
Well, I know this is not necessarily like a Christian podcast, but we are all Christians. And I will say, like the Bible says that the truth will set you free. And so that's his truth. And I think, you know, from a PR crisis standpoint, I think as publicists, we can truly respect when someone just comes forward and tells the truth. Now, it could possibly make our jobs more complicated, but I think that it's better that he was able to come out and tell his truth versus having someone else come and speak for him and then maybe give some version of the truth, which may not have been his full version. I do think, you know, this story actually broke right before the pandemic hit. And so he's been silent now for most of the year. And I think, you know, like we've all been taught is that, you know, no comment is a comment. And so him not speaking up has, you know, created a narrative about him that may or may not have been true. And so even though, you know, I'm sure whoever his publicist is, I'm sure, you know, she probably would have preferred that, you know, he and RJ kind of keep the story between the two of them. I think that in order for him to truly be able to move forward in his career, whatever that looks like, whether that is, you know, a nonprofit, a politician, whatever the case may be, I think he had to get out and say something, because if he didn't, I think it could have tarnished his brand that much more.
No, yeah, I agree, because, you know, when you're dealing with issues like that and stories like that, the worst thing that you can do is to have someone else talk about it before you're able to. And so I definitely think that the best decision he could have made is for him to tell his version of the story so that it didn't become some headline or, you know, just some further scandal. But it's also interesting too, though, like just the decisions that people make knowing that they are in a public position, and just really, I mean, I'm sure it's challenging because you do want to have a personal life too, but it's just like, I feel like you have to be thinking about that, you know, ahead of time. Like, okay, I'm in this prominent position, I'm in this political space, somebody's going to find out. Like, you really don't have the luxury of keeping certain things private, especially, you know, things like this, because, you know, I guess unfortunately or unfortunately, depending on where you stand on it, I mean, people do make a big deal about your orientation and what your, you know, what your personal life looks like. And some people think, you know, that shouldn't be a thing. You should be able to do what you want and that should be separate. But right now, where we are, it's still a very sensitive issue. And so I don't know. It's a lot of complexities, I think, for me. But I also think at the end of the day, being able to, like Stephanie was saying and Brooke was saying, just own your narrative before someone else can is, I mean, that's really the best thing you can do, I think.
And I think that's something important that I wish more publicists would talk about too, because no one really talks about the ugly side of PR and what it is like to have to manage a crisis and try to figure out, okay, what do you say? When do you say it? How far are we going to go? How much can we intrude in, you know, your personal life? And that, I think that is one of the sides of PR that's almost dark a little bit, because at the end of the, like you mentioned too, is like, you want people to be able to have somewhat of a personal life.
Mm-hmm.
When you become this public figure, it's almost as if all bets are off. And so to have to walk through those dark places with your clients, that's not fun at all. You know, I even, you know, thought about as I watched the interview, wow, like there's a publicist somewhere who had coached them through this whole thing from the time that, you know, they found out that he was found passed out to the time that the photo was revealed, up until now when he's been quiet and now making a decision for him to talk to Tamron Hall. Like, those are all decisions that I'm sure his publicist helped him make. And I can only imagine how stressful that had to be, because one wrong thing spoken during that interview, although I'm sure some questions were vetted, you know, in before the interview actually happened, but that whole process in and of itself has the ability to make or break his career. And I think even when the interview was over, you know, I watched the after show and some of the comments that were coming in, there were some people who were celebrating him for sharing his story. There were some people, you know, who questioned his motives. And then there were some people who were saying, you know, we can never support him as a politician because he showed that he's being irresponsible. Whatever the side of the coin is, that was a risk that that publicist had to take when guiding him on which direction he should be in. And so I'm just curious to know, like, y'all's opinion, you know, in terms of crisis communications, how do you guys keep your sanity with your clients whenever you're going through a crisis?
It's good.
Wow, that's really good. I feel
Yeah.
like when you're going through, I feel like when you're going through a crisis, I had a crisis situation that happened to me. I was getting ready to log off and board an airplane, and a tweet went out regarding the company. And I feel like you just have to, whatever you do, you have to remain calm. You have to remain calm. Remember what the facts are. Take anything that's emotional out of how you might personally feel about it, and just try to remain calm, gather all the facts, and stick to the point, stick to the narrative so you can control the narrative. And it's also important to have some kind of self-care routine. It doesn't have something that you go out in the store and buy, or, you know, typical hair, nails, massage, but it could be simple as just maybe reading a book or a nice candle, or just having a gratitude journal or something that you do to relax, because I feel as publicists, we're always on the go. We have very busy 24/7 schedules that we're meeting high demands for our clients or company, and we have to take time for ourselves, for sure.
Definitely. No, that's true. And I would say additionally to what Brooke said, I think my biggest piece of advice is really to be proactive and really saying, hey, you know, once something happens, let's work together.